So this video has come about following a question I received to a previous video about topping the golf ball. And the person's question was more about the wrist angles affecting the quality of strike. And it is true. If that lead wrist, and it has to work from flexion to extension, but if it moves to extension too early through impact, that could cause the club to be rising and therefore top the golf ball. So a trait we see with elite golfers is they have their lead wrist in flexion at impact, and they actually get their handle ahead of the golf club. So they create some shaft lean, effectively taking some loft off the golf club, but also helping them make sure they hit the ball, then turn. The thing that we're going to be discussing today, however, is we can't achieve that without our lead wrist having some flexion in there at impact. Because if I just push my handle forwards, it will open the golf club. So I've got to actually get my lead wrist to work this way into impact. There has to be some flexion where it almost feels like my lead palm is going to be pointing more towards me. We call that supination. So it's almost going to feel this way, like the back of the lead wrist would point a little bit more down towards the ground, rather than the opposite movement where the back of the glove is pointing up towards me. If I have the lead wrist in extension, or quite often referred to as a cupping position, what does that mean on the downswing? Well, generally speaking, we're going to have that club face wide open. So if I've got extension of the wrist, the face wide open, and I push my hands forwards, guess where that ball's going? So I've got to close that face through getting my lead wrist from extension into more flexion. So I've got Hackmotion on here, and I've set myself a range staying anywhere from -20, so 20 degrees in flexion, to plus 10 degrees of extension. If I fall outside that range, you will not hear anything. If I stay within that range, you get that audible tone. So the aim here is to try and keep the angels singing through impact by getting this lead wrist, and I've actually overdone it there, but get this lead wrist in flexion. If I lose that this way into that cupping position, we lose the noise. As I said, if I get my hands forwards, but I've got the lead wrist extended, I'm going to hit the ball right to target. So you can really work on the handle being forwards and the shot shape. So you could quite simply put an alignment stick in the ground and just work on some little punchy impact ones, trying to start the ball straight. If you're actually managing to start the ball straight and visually on video get your handle forwards, we know we're getting pretty good wrist angles there, don't we? So I'm within range, I can hear them singing. I've got the feeling on my lead wrist pointing a little bit more down. I'm actually almost too far at -25. But into that position, the club face is more matching my spine angle. And I can, that was a bit of a funny one. I think that was out the heel of the golf club. I can get my hands forwards at impact, I was going to suggest. Let me hit one more of those. The result wasn't quite as bad as I thought it was going to be. There we go. There we go. I'm allowed a retake once in a while, aren't I? So that was a good impact position. What we don't want to see is wrist in extension. I haven't got any singing. If I got my hands forwards way right, or I flick through impact. And sometimes it's that golfer, as I said, over here ahead of it, and then again they're having to start to lose these angles. And they could top it, they could fat it, they could do all sorts of things from there depending on how they react really to it. So if I've got poor club face position, no angels singing into this position, as I said, we're always going to start to see this leaning back movement through impact to start to try and square the club face. So it is true the wrist angles will affect your quality of strike, topping it, thinning it, but it's not quite as simple as shove your hands forwards. Because as I said, if we shove our hands forwards, but we haven't changed our wrist angle, that club face is going to be wide open. So you do need to learn this movement where you feel like the back of the left wrist points a little bit more to that, down to the ground. Or if you want to focus on the palm, almost supination that the palm would pointing more up to you. Now you could quite easily, I'm focusing here on lead wrist, I'll probably do another video focusing more on the trail wrist, but I could get a similar idea with my trail wrist, that my trail palm is starting to point more down to the ground. So lead palm up, trail palm down on opposites. That's really helping my wrist angles, where again, with the iron here, I can get my handle now forwards and still square the club face through impact. But as I said, you can start to work on impact, square that club face early, get it matching your spine angle with the wrist conditions I was discussing there, and now we can turn through and have our handles forwards. Then we can start to get that ball turf interaction that we're really looking for. If you did enjoy the video, make sure to hit the thumbs up, subscribe to my channel for more content just like this. And right now, YouTube is suggesting the next video of mine that's relevant for you. The link's just here, click on it and check it out.